What up, everybody? Hold your rock and roll. On the commute home. Wanted to share my thoughts on the whole Judge Cavanaugh situation update. The Senate Select Committee just voted within an hour ago to move forward with the vote for confirmation of Judge Cavanaugh. And so that is going to happen. There will be a vote on his acceptance into the Supreme Court. That's going to happen, I believe, next week. I didn't get the exact date. I just know that the vote it's moving forward, okay? Now, my thoughts on the whole circus of Miss Ford, her allegations, her testimony, and then Judge Cavanaugh's testimony. You know, if you are to weigh the two testimonies in the balance, hopefully you've had a chance to at least hear both sides by now. And the preponderance of the evidence is in Judge Cavanaugh's favor. It's pretty clear that the allegations made by Miss Ford are weak at best. She can't remember the house exactly. She can't remember the exact date. She can't remember anything. And all of the so-called witnesses that she claims were there all reject her allegations. They say that either it didn't happen or they weren't there. And her closest friend, a female, said that she never met Judge Cavanaugh and didn't know who he was, and that the story was not true. So that's the one side, the veracity of the allegations, without a police report, surfacing some 36 years after the supposedly event occurred. There's just no veracity to it. And I think going forward, I'm sorry to say this, if you are a victim, I'm sorry for you, and I definitely feel bad for you, and you sure should seek justice, but those who are accused are innocent until proven guilty, not the other way around. And if you come up with an allegation where you haven't filed a police report, and the allegation is more than, let's say, 30 days old, I think going forward the Senate should just dispatch those allegations. If there's no police report and it's over 30 days, has occurred supposedly 30 days or more in the past, it doesn't mean it didn't happen, but it means it probably didn't happen. Now, Judge Cavanaugh's testimony was very strong. It was very believable. And to back up what he was saying was his calendars. That he actually logged his time, his dates, he kept track of his stuff, and he was able to show this. Now, that doesn't prove, you can't prove a negative. It doesn't prove that he didn't do something, but it certainly adds weight to his testimony that he wasn't there. He couldn't have been there because he has logged other activities, and that he was even away from town 2 weeks that summer, and most weekends he was doing other things, preparing for his sporting activities. Whoa, big sun there. So I think that really speaks the loudest. So, and as a result, even a flake like Jeff Flake, Senator Jeff Flake, who is a never-Trumper and who is not running for re-election, has said publicly that he will vote yes for Cavanaugh. So the original thought that several Republicans might not vote for his confirmation seems to be withering away. And I think anybody who is reasonable, rational, and wants to get at the truth can see that this whole thing was is nonsense. All these allegations are nonsense. Just like what happened to President Trump when he was a candidate. Did you know that there was a lawsuit by an anonymous person claiming that President Trump had sex with a minor, and as soon as he got elected, that lawsuit went away? Did you guys know about that? The same thing with Judge Moore. The woman who accused him of inappropriately doing whatever and supposedly signed his yearbook, and then we found out later that she actually doctored the signature. That's gone. That's gone away. It's pretty obvious that, you know, for the last 60 years or so, at least in America, we can't say the same thing about Ireland or even Australia, but at least in America, the people, whenever they have voted, for example, they have voted against gay marriage. They have over and over again voted that the definition of marriage is between one man and one woman. For example, with regards to abortion, whenever people have voted, they voted against abortion. Only in America did the Supreme Court legalize abortion and legalize gay marriage. In Ireland, for example, just the opposite happened. The people actually had a referendum and they voted to legalize gay marriage, and then they voted to legalize abortion. That's a huge difference. It's a huge difference. And I think it speaks volumes about where the cultures are. I mean, Ireland used to be considered a very Catholic country, and you can see that over the last, let's say, generation and a half, I mean, maybe people still consider themselves to be Catholic or agnostic, maybe, I don't know, they consider themselves to be Catholic, but they don't believe in the Catholic Church. That's a whole nother discussion. But at least in America, with the exception of the Protestant Zionists, at least Catholics have remained, in general, anti-gay marriage and anti-abortion. So my prediction, as of right now, Friday, what is it, the 28th of September? My prediction is that Judge Kavanaugh will be confirmed. He will be on the Supreme Court. And at this point, really all President Trump has done is replaced retiring conservatives with new conservatives. The balance of the Supreme Court is still pretty much sort of 5-4, 4-5 at the moment. But I don't know how long Ruth Bader Ginsburg can hang on. She's in her mid-80s. You see her falling asleep at various events. And my prediction is that she will, I mean, definitely within the next 6 years, she won't be there. Now she'll either have to retire or she may pass away. And at that point, when President Trump is able to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg, then we will definitely have a 5-4 conservative court, which means that certain things that were declared constitutional may be overturned. Now, if you read the Constitution, it clearly delineates the powers of the three branches. And it says that all other powers not explicitly defined in the Constitution are reserved for the states. So for those of you who want to have abortion on demand, and you're so worried about your ability to kill your unborn child, even if Roe v. Wade is overturned, the question of whether or not you can have an abortion legally will be left to the states. Now, some states will probably ban abortions in their state. Other states, more liberal states, I'm thinking of, for now, California, New York, will probably legalize it or continue to make it legal. Perhaps with certain other restrictions or what have you. And this move towards a more conservative, traditional, populist, nationalist move, this move to the right, if you will, is not only a reaction to the excesses of the left and how far they have pushed things socially, but it's a natural reaction in sort of a pendulum effect. We've gone so far to the left in recent years. Now people have just fed up with this. Things are moving back to the right, and that's not just in America. You see this worldwide. Even before Brexit, you saw this in Central Europe with Poland and the Visegrad Four. Then you saw Brexit. Then you saw the vote to elect President Donald J. Trump, who said very nationalistic things. America first. Make America great again. That's why he got elected, because he promised to change things. And you can see that in just very short order, making some, you could say call them small changes, you can call them big changes, but significant changes like lowering the taxes, reducing regulation, encouraging companies to return to the United States, levying tariffs against countries who have tariffs against us, asking for a reciprocal trade disagreements. It has created one of the biggest economic booms in the United States, certainly since Reagan, and possibly, obviously the economy is much bigger now than it was under Reagan, so that, a 4% growth today is probably twice as much as a 4% growth under Reagan. And we had I think we had a 7% growth rate, at least one quarter, maybe not the whole year, but at least in one of the quarters. I remember there was a month when 1 million people got hired. Hey, Thomas Jefferson, what's happening? I remember when Reagan was president, we had a month when over 1 million people got jobs. Now, certainly there was a recession a little bit prior to that, but imagine that, 1 million people. These days, we're seeing around 200,000 new jobs being created almost every month. It's just hard to see. You see like new like unemployment claims being a little bit below that, like 190, 180 every month. So that could represent just a normal turnover in the workplace, right? As people change jobs or lose their job and then look for a new job. But the great thing about America right now is that if you are looking for a job, you can find work. If you want to work, there's a job for you. Now, the question is, of course, what's your wage going to be? That's always the question. That's always the question. If you've got skills, you can make good money. If you have lower skills, well, you're going to make less money. But on that note, the fact that President Trump's policies are also looking to put America first, Americans first, it should lead to, and it is leading to, increases in wages, even at the lower end, without having to mandate a rise in the minimum wage. Isn't that a beautiful thing? That you don't have to accept a minimum wage job because companies are so desperate to hire you, they'll pay you more than minimum wage, right? That's what I'm seeing out there. Now, I don't know that many people making minimum wage, to be honest with you. I'm a little bit too old for that. I mean, all the people that I know are much older than the minimum wage crowd. Although sometimes you take a minimum wage job or like an entry-level job just as you're transitioning, or maybe if you're in school, go back to school and you want to work part-time. I think the federal minimum wage is like $7.45, but I think most jobs are paying $10. Like, that's the new minimum wage. Without a federal mandate, without a state mandate, you can, most jobs like at like at a Walmart or Home Depot or at Costco, of course, pays better than that. Costco, I'm told, pays around $20 an hour and really wants to retain their workers. So that, again, you know, that's their business model. They've always paid well above minimum wage. And their calculation was, look, it's cheaper for us to pay more now than to have to keep retraining people. And it has been a successful strategy for Costco. Just an example. Maybe it would have worked for everybody, but for every company, but certainly that's what's happening. And with Judge Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court, it just makes it easier. I think in the future it'll make it easier for certain more populist, nationalists, and traditional issues as they come up to be re-implemented. And what does it really mean? Let's break it down. What does it really mean? It means that people have to be more personally responsible for the behavior, right? If you're going to have premarital sex or you're going to have sex, you have to be responsible for the outcome. You know, if somebody gets pregnant, there's only one way that happens. There's only one way that happens, people. And you know what you're doing. All right? So you have to be responsible for that. You have to be responsible for yourself. Check out my live chat. Yeah. What we've seen is the people wanting to have, keeping America traditional, keeping America pretty much traditional. It doesn't mean there won't be progress, but the Supreme Court has been in the, you know, this left, when it's been leftist, more leftist Supreme Court, or 5-4, 4-5, whatever you want to call it. It's been the Supreme Court that has been cramming policies down the American people's throat. Like nobody wanted gay marriage. Gays never wanted to get married. Why would they get married? The whole point of being gay is you're not going to get married. It's just insane. You're taking something that's sterile and trying to say that it's now it can reproduce. It can't reproduce by definition. It's a whole other story. So, anyways, this is I think it's a very positive thing. It definitely was a circus. The whole Judge Kavanaugh thing with Miss Ford or Dr. Ford. And I just had a bad vibe. That squeaky ass, little stupid ass, like teenager voice. The you know, here she is, supposedly scarred for life for something that happened when she was 15, which, even as it's described, I hate to say it, it doesn't actually sound that bad. It sounds like teenagers goofing around, just goofing around and being stupid. Now, did she describe inappropriate behavior? Absolutely. Was it sexual assault? I don't know, man. I don't know if you can really consider that sexual assault. By today's standard, yeah. But in 1982, it just sounds like stupid ass behavior. Now, even if it just doesn't make any sense. Even if you're a 15-year-old girl and something like this happened to you, why wouldn't you tell your parents? I mean, you would tell your parents. You'd be scared. Yeah, you'd be embarrassed. But you would want your parents to talk to his parents, at least, right? It just doesn't make any sense. You know, you'd be able to say, Mom, nothing happened, but this is what happened, right? I'm okay. This is what happened. It just doesn't make any sense, you know, that, you know, it doesn't pass the sniff test, if you will. And Judge Kavanaugh, in his defense, is very credible. It's very credible. You know, I've known student athletes that were good, student athletes that were bad. And to be honest with you, you know, it's as Lindsey Graham said. You know, if somebody is drugging women and gang raping them for 2 years in high school, you don't suddenly stop that behavior, right? And I mean, if you're old enough, let's say if you're in your mid-30s or older, you can probably look back at your high school years, and if you went to any of your high school reunions, think about how people turned out, right? Think about how people turned out. And it's not about, let's say, there's obviously the stereotype of the high school football hero, who peaked early, and you go back to the 10-year reunion, he's fat, and he's married to some fat woman, and maybe he's got a couple kids, and he's working in some steel mill or something, I mean, that's like a stereotype, right? And he's kind of a loser, right? Because he kind of peaked early. That's one stereotype. The other stereotype is, a person who academically was pretty good, but maybe he was out partying all the time. You knew about it. You knew he was out partying or talking about partying in high school. And then you see him, 10 years after high school, he went to the university, and he's still the same guy. He's still a fucking loser. He's still trying to party. He's just a loser, right? It's very hard for those people to change. Even though they might have been a good athlete, even though they might have been, relatively good student. I've seen people like that. A guy who went to the Naval Academy, became a naval officer. After 4 years in the Navy, they spent a couple $100,000 on his education. Now he only have a 4 or 5 year obligation. He gave his obligation, and this is a guy who I saw him at the 10 or 15 year high school reunion. He had retired from the Navy, and he was a sailboat instructor. A sailboat instructor. What the fuck, man? What a loser. But he was always a loser-ish kind of guy, even in high school. You know what I mean? Even though I'm not saying he was stupid. He was not a stupid person, but he was just a douchebag. Always trying to, talking about partying on the weekends and, bragging about this girl or that girl. He was the same guy. He was doing the same stuff 10, 15 years later. He hadn't changed. So, I mean, if we apply that same yardstick to Judge Kavanaugh, and the fact that we've got 65 women from his high school, I don't know, something like 95 women from his professional life that all certify that this is a good guy. This is a good guy. You know what I mean? Backed up with his calendar where he recorded his activities, as, acting not only as a calendar but as a diary. This has been a real circus, a real shite show, if you will. And it's over now. We've gotten through it. He will be voted on. His confirmation will be voted on by the full Senate next week. And my prediction is that he will be confirmed. And he will help make America great again. So I'm Holy Joe Rock'n'Roll. These have been my thoughts on this whole fiasco, with a little bit of digressions here and there. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. I'm reminding you to always make it happen for the captain. It's never too late, because you're the captain.